There are those that talk about potential tensions as we go through this transition between UNC and the ROC-led CFC. Could you address those tensions and why there should not be concerns because of this, the role of UNC? You start with General Brooks.
Well, sure. Throw out a couple of comments on that. There are some tensions. There has always been the tension of absolute sovereignty versus limitations on sovereignty, like the imposition of an armistice, which initially was not agreed to by South Korea, although there was a very important representative on that armistice negotiating team, General Paek Sun-yup, who we just honored last week after he passed. But the sense that UN command somehow impedes sovereignty is an underlying concern. In my analysis, and certainly in my practice, and I know SCAP's practice as well, we did everything we could to make sure we weren't infringing on sovereignty and yet fulfilling our responsibilities. And I think that's the case still, but that has to be understood that there's a political concern about sovereignty. There's also the international aspect of UN command. Who is part of it? We talked about the 16 to 18 countries that actually provided forces during the war and the additional supporting countries, a total of 22 when it's all said and done for sending and supporting. Are they the same ones if something were to happen now? So the composition of UN command in a future need is a point of friction. Where do they base? Who decides that? Shawn alluded to the need for bilateral agreements for visitations of forces. They should come in exercises if they're interested. They should participate in key events. And certainly if we're on the field doing the actual job, whatever it is, peace or war, they need to have a presence and be supported in South Korea and also in Japan, which initially was viewed as a rear area, but cannot be viewed that way now. Japan is likely a front area, given the capabilities that North Korea faces. And striding the East Sea, Sea of Japan, is United Nations Command, which has relationships in both. There's some tension there as to the South Korea-Japan relationship and UN Command's relationship with each of them. These are just some examples, and I'll turn it over to Scap.
Vince, I think you hit it correctly. I mean, the major one was a concern about sovereignty. As I started the revitalization, as I told you, I shared the white paper we were writing in draft with the Republic of Korea leaders for that very reason, because I wanted them and I wanted to understand their concerns so that we could mitigate those and reduce those as we develop this revitalization. The first of theirs was sovereignty. I think the second, there's one that's just change is difficult in complex organizations, and particularly one where it's with CFC being a U.S. ROC command, the lead, so to speak, there, and concerns that there might be disruption in that relationship as a result of bringing in ascending nations and reinforcing or at least revitalizing their activity as a part of the activities there on the peninsula. And so we had to reduce their concerns about that. They were concerned about the influence of the UN command bases in Japan as well. In fact, we established a routine trip of officers to the UN command bases in Japan for the Republic of Korea officers in order to introduce them to what these bases were, how they were important, and how they would be helpful in the future with respect to both maintaining the armistice, but also if conflict should occur. So those were steps that we took to address the normal concerns that one would expect when you begin a change in relationship and a revitalization of a command that had largely been just focused on very specific military tasks to that point.